Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to another episode of WTF What's the Frequency? The show where we look at how being on the good foot, getting on the right frequency, engaging with what nature and the universe has to give you can really catapult you into a different destiny. And one of the things that really is at the heart of that is self esteem. When you've got high self esteem, anything is possible. You love yourself. You think you're okay. You think anything that you decide to do is within your grasp. But low self esteem can, no matter how beautiful you are, no matter how successful, can make you feel really heavy and low and can make even the most simple task seem insurmountable. So today's guest is somebody that is really a beacon of self-esteem. She's the lady who's written a most amazing book, a guide, if you will, to getting on the good foot and getting great self-esteem. And she has been a supermodel. She's also a dame. She is Clarissa Burt, or rather Dame Clarissa Burt, supermodel, survivor of celebrity, the Celebrity Survivor show. She really rails against things. She's a bit of a change maker and she's always up to something new. So I've invited her on today to have a chat to us about how to really engage with high self-esteem and how to make it work with you. So join me in welcoming Clarissa to the WTF What's the Frequency show. Hi there.
Hello, it's so thrilling to be here with you. I can't tell you how excited I've been to be on because I just love you. And the idea of being on your show is wonderful. I was thinking as you were setting up the show, you would be beautiful at like the reading bedtime stories. Your voice is so calming. I need more of you in my life, Vanessa. I definitely do.
Oh, bless you. Bless you. I've never thought of doing that, but I'd actually quite like it. I love stories and I love it, I just love any sort of story, really, apart from horrors. I'm really, they're not for
Not good
me.
horror, are we? Nope.
No, not at all. I like a happy ending, something that makes me laugh.
Mm.
But we've got you on the show. I've been so excited. After we had our sort of pre-show chat, I felt like I'd known you 100 years. And I know what everybody is starting to ask you. You're so fabulously beautiful. How did you become a supermodel? And what's it like? Is it as glamorous as everybody thinks it is?
Very interesting. It's very interesting because I knew from a very early age that I was going to be on the stage in some way, shape, or form. I was Mary Poppins in the kindergarten play. I was the loudest singer. I memorized all the words. I was 5 years old. And after I sang Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious and got my first standing ovation at the kindergarten play, I was hooked. I really loved the attention, and so the idea of being a supermodel a model came along when I was watching and looking at, when we were kids, the only thing we had were the Sears catalogs.
Oh my goodness, yeah, they set the fashion tone for
All
everything.
we had was 2 times a year, twice. It was spring, summer, and fall, winter, and these catalogs would come along, and immediately I would open them as a young girl and go and look in the women's section because I wanted to see the models and how they were posing and their hair and their makeup, and that was my foray, if you will, into fashion, was the Sears women's section catalog, and I knew that that was where the spark started. And then on television, I knew that by watching those fantastic movies, we only had 3 channels back in the day, right? But every Saturday morning, they'd come off with these fabulous, big Hollywood grand movies. And it would be Rita Hayworth and Ava Gardner, and they were my idols. And I just knew that I, in some way, shape, or form, wanted to be just like them. Unfortunately, I was very, a gawky little girl from skinny and, little girl from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I didn't think that any of that was going to be possible. I was very shy and never believed in myself at all. There was no idea or belief system that could ever happen to me.
So hang on a minute. So on one hand, you're living this life where you're flicking through the Sears catalogue. I used to do that. Look at the makeup. It was our reach into fashion, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then, like you say, old movies, really glamorous. So you've got that focus, but also at the same time, you're, as a lot of models were when they were younger, a bit gawky, a bit out of proportion to, what was deemed beautiful at the time, and as a result, quite introverted. So quite a juxtaposed sort of vibration going on there. Very interesting.
Yeah. So I was living in New Jersey at the time when I graduated high school, and I wanted to be in the big city in the biggest way. So I did everything in my power to find a job in New York City when I was 19. And from New Jersey, every morning up at 5 on the train, blah, 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 do the work, back on the train. And I was exhausted, but I was in the city. And that's what I really wanted. And people, as I would get to know them, would say, you really should be a model. You really should be. And I go, oh, I could never. Oh, well, thank you. I did all, because I never really believed that I could, until one day a photographer said, I need a model for some pictures. Could you, would you mind? And I said, heck no, I'd love to. Did the pictures, took the pictures to a couple of the agencies in New York City, about 3 of them actually. I got accepted by 2, chose one, which was Wilhelmina in New York City back in 1980, 81. And by 83, 82, I was in Paris. 83, I was in Italy. So that's kind of how that started. It was nothing more than a dream. It was I could never, until I put on my big girl britches and said, well, what if I could? What if I could?
Yeah, there you go. The what if question. What if I just had a bit of faith? What if I just gave it a go?
And I will admit that the prompting of some people around me that could see in me what I couldn't see in myself helped. And from then on, the world was truly my oyster. I started modeling, after which that parlayed into some acting, after which I produced. I was living in Italy at the time. I lived there for almost 30 years. And I worked on television as on-camera talent, and then I started to produce television. So a stage, in some way, shape, or form, has been a part of my life, for a very good part of my life. And I often say, when the world is your stage, you have to stage your world. And that's where the rest of all of this comes in.
Yeah, I really like that. You have to stage your world, and it's so true, isn't it? If you don't think about positively about what you can achieve, about what you're going to do next. So just for our audience, just quickly, because I do want to move on to more important things, really, is what's it like backstage in fashion? Because the front of it is so glamorous and glossy, and we all want to look like it. What's it really like?
It is, I tell you. They were truly some of the most beautiful years of my life. It was exciting. It was dashing. It was thrilling. It was nerve-wracking. It was also an honor, because if you think about it, there are so many aspiring models from all around the world. And when you're in Italy, when you're in Paris, when you're in New York, especially during Fashion Week, and that means runway and fashion shows, each designer probably at most has 20 girls at any given time at any given show, at most. And when you think that of all the girls in all the world that wanted to be on that stage, and you're there, not only are you there, but you're on pretty much every other stage as well, in every city.
Yeah, and I've been to Fashion Week. It's just photos. You're on every magazine. You're in every paper.
Yeah.
So what did that do to your self-esteem? Because you've gone from being a bit gawky at school, not having any self-esteem. Now you've earned your place, and the competition. You're not. I need to emphasize this for you, because I don't think you've done it enough. Is fierce, isn't it? I mean, there are thousands of wannabe supermodels, and it's only the very best that make it.
Yeah, they were different, very, very different times. You didn't have to be a size 0, thank God. I mean, at best, I think my thinnest, I was a size 8 American, and potentially got closest to 6, but maybe a 6 for a bit, but not, we didn't have to be gauntly thin at the time. So the modeling industry has changed a lot over the years, but just the idea that, you said, what did it do to my self-esteem? I'm going to think that it did an awful lot for my self-esteem. It really was I was able to challenge myself through it all. I was able to win the challenge. I was able to win fears. My knees wobbled the first 15, 20 shows I did. I don't even know how I got out there, let alone my knees didn't buckle and they didn't give out on me. I was that scared. I was that when that fear, they're little wins, if you will. And when you challenge yourself and you put yourself out there and it's all learning process at the same time. You're going to be a better version of yourself tomorrow than you are today. And each time is another mini learning session. So I do invite everyone to continue on the, putting yourselves out there and just bulldozing through the fear.
Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? Because, your mind's there to trick you. Oh, be afraid, don't do it. But actually, we're incredibly capable of doing all sorts of things, and you're testament to that.
Absolutely.
And winning the Celebrity Survivor show, what was that like?
Well, it
I
was
mean, because
interesting.
it looks crazy when you're watching it on TV. What made you do that?
Well, it was interesting. I had left Europe after my 30 years. I was living here, and my agent from Italy called and said, there's the Survivor show. And I went, look, thanks. No, thanks. Not interested. Not my thing. Don't want to do it. Yeah. I did. And they kept calling. And I think they needed a woman around my age-ish, because they also put in age, brackets. And I've never been married. So no husband, no children, no pets, none of that. And so it was easy for me to just get up and go. You lock the house and off you go. And so I thought about it for a little bit, and I thought, it just sounded, I'm so adventurous anyway, that it sounded like fun. And it was really a blast. It was difficult. It was all real. People said, was it really, really? Yeah, it's all real. And
What was the worst thing? What was the worst thing that you just thought, oh my gosh?
The worst thing?
Yeah.
For me, anywhere I go in the world, I mean, I could be in the 100th floor in the Antarctic, and a mosquito is going to find me. And so I live my life by, I'll come there, but are there mosquitoes? I would never move there because there are mosquitoes, kind of thing. The mosquitoes massacre me. The worst thing there was that there weren't the mosquitoes per se. We were in Nicaragua, but there were the no-see-ums that would come out every night from the sand. And notwithstanding how many layers of whatever you had that you could, and we slept right on the sand, by the way, but you would put layers of things and try to sleep on that. And invariably in the middle of the night, the back of my back would be on fire because they were attacking. I still to this day have scabs on my body from doing the show because of all the scratching that I did. And they would come relentlessly. I was on that island for almost 3 months, Vanessa. So you can imagine how brutal it was. So that was really the most difficult part. The second most difficult part was living with, 11 other people that you don't know. That's always a challenge. Anyway,
Well, yeah, I can imagine it is, because you're really, and obviously you're really dependent on people, aren't you? And it must be really irritating. It's like you were supposed to get the wood for the fire or rise the water.
Yeah, interesting.
Or, like you've just sat there all week and we're all starving. About time you got to wriggle on and maybe went and hunted something. I mean, I get cross on behalf when I'm watching it.
We had a handful of rice basically every day, and that was halved between lunch and dinner. And we ate, if we could find coconut. And I'll tell you something, one of the most difficult things, thank goodness we had young, really strong guys on the show to open up those coconuts, because if it was up to me, I would have never been able to open up a coconut. They are that difficult to open. You have to come in with a jackhammer to open those things.
I had no idea.
Yeah. And so we get a coconut, get it open. Some people would drink the milk. I don't like coconut milk, so I didn't have that either as nutrition. But then they would cut little slivers of the coconut and had to go out between 12 people. There was a certain point, which means you got a teeny little sliver every morning But there was a point where there were 20 of us on the island. Long story I won't bore you with, but they brought more people on the island. We had to cut a coconut into 20 pieces. So
Oh
you
my
can
God, I can't imagine. And I get really hangry if I don't get food.
yeah.
I really am unpleasant,
Well,
you know.
that's what they're planning on. They're planning on, the psychosis, hitting because people, because of the way different, I don't mind it. It didn't bother me, whereas it was the no-see-ums for me. So everyone has their thing. I was everybody's aunt. I was already 50. I turned 53 on the island. So I was one of the elders. I was the one that all the kids ran to. I was the one that comforted them all. And every week they'd have a psychologist come on and say, "How are you kids? How's everybody doing?" And we'd take us one by one. And so the psychologist used to rant with me. And she'd come on and say, "How you doing, honey?" And she'd go, and so here I was, psychologing the psychologist. And but it was a great experience. I'm glad I did it. And I lost 20 pounds, in the time I was there, which was fabulous. I was back to my fighting weight. I tell you, I was back to runway weight when I got off of that island. But
So you strutted off the island.
I
Everybody else
did,
was
I did.
shuffling. You could get the full
Yes.
strut.
It was wonderful. The whole experience was good. I'm really glad that I did it. And yeah, it was a great experience.
Oh, I think that's wonderful. It's very interesting
Mm.
that you say, everybody came to you with their problems. Is that why you wrote this amazing book about self-esteem? Because one of the things that really bothers me in my job as a healer is how many girls I see. I say girls because I'm, you know, 60 soon, and they're sort of 30, and I'm thinking, you're just babies, really, compared to me. But they're all beautiful. They're all really successful. They've got great jobs, and they don't feel beautiful. They sit in front of me, mainly on Zoom, and say, I feel ugly. I feel worthless. What do you think is driving this?
Well, I think we have to be really careful about the definition of beauty because it is so many things. It's what I call look good, feel good, be good, and greater good, right? So it's the outside, the inside, the head, and the heart. And so outside, obviously, it's the way we present ourselves, and we do want to take pride in our appearance, obviously. And there are a lot of things that we can do to help that process along. And this is not advocating or non-advocating for anything, but I guarantee you that you would not have wanted me to come on to this podcast this morning the way I woke up. Right? I got up, I took a shower, I did my hair, put on some makeup. I've come with my best self. And so I feel really confident in the way I'm presenting. The second is feel good. And so that's your diet, your exercise, your nutrition, your wellness, right? Taking time for self-care and really loving. This is a time where you get to really love your body and love yourself, which is really so important because if they call it self-esteem for a reason, Vanessa. It's not, geez, I wonder what everybody else thinks about me, esteem. It's self-esteem. It is the sacred duty that you have to yourself to continually work on yourself and your personal development. And if you're not as pretty as Susie Q, well, that was your lot in this life, but how much more beautiful can you be in other ways? Let's go down, look good, feel good, be good. Be good is leadership, it's relationship, it's your work, it's your finances and other ways that you do present, right? It's your intelligence, it's your continuing evolution, it's your education. Lots of really great things and beautiful things, come from being good. And then, of course, it's the greater good, which is giving back, paying it forward, tithing, volunteering, and doing something to take the emphasis off of self and devoting that to others, devolving that to others, which is an extremely empowering place to be. So if we're going to stop and worry about what we see in the mirror all the time, that really is cutting ourselves very short. I often talk about mirror therapy, and I learned about mirror therapy through the works of Louise Hay. I've learned more about mirror therapy because it was incorporated also into Jack Canfield's work. And if it was good enough for them, it was definitely good enough for my book. There are two ways to approach a mirror. And one is looking at yourself, and one is looking at the mirror, and the other one is looking into the mirror. So when I'm looking at the mirror, I'm brushing my hair and doing my makeup. I'm basically preening. And when I'm looking into the mirror, I'm screening. And so I'm taking a look as I sit and I center and I look into my own eyes and I become my own rah-rah session. Because the world is not going to give you the love, the dedication, and all the affirmation that you need or want. And it's on you to work on your personal development, your self improvement, your self esteem. It has nothing to do with anyone else or what they think. In fact, what anyone else thinks of us, as you've heard before, is none of our business.
I know, I love that. And I always say to my clients, be grateful they're giving you airtime, but it really doesn't matter what they think. It has no relevance at all. It doesn't
It
count.
really doesn't. And we learn that, I'm afraid, far too late in life. At least I
Yeah.
did. At
Yeah,
least
no, I did as well, and I wonder if it is, this pressure from the fashion industry, from the cosmetics industry, from the marketers, from the advertisers that
yes.
is putting this pressure on us.
And now you
And
can add social media to that mix.